Pakistan's Prime Minister blames his predecessor Imran Khan for the crisis.
काश ये ML1 पिछले 4 साल की जो बेबुनियाद इल्ज़ाम तराशी का शिकार न होता, इसी तरह जो दूसरे इदारे थे वो बेबुनियाद इल्ज़ाम तराशी का शिकार न होते और यहीं तक बात रहती तो शायद मामला इतना ख़राब ना होता.
IMF wants Pakistan to further hike gas and electricity prices.
मैं राशन लेने के लिए आया, घर में जो है मासूम बच्चे जो है हर एक का तरस रहा है और भूख और इफ्लास से लोग मर रहे हैं.
कोई साथ नहीं दे रहा. आटा महंगा, चीनी महंगी, अंडे महंगे, क्या क्या चीज महंगी, नहीं क्या खाएगा अभी. अब गैस पे बढ़ा रहे, गैस की वहाँ से बंद कर देते हैं. जाओ, सबसे मिले हुए बड़े बड़े ताजिर जो होते हैं ना, डाकू.
Will Pakistan go bankrupt? That's our top focus on India First. The International Monetary Fund has refused to release another $1 billion for cash-strapped Pakistan till Pakistan does more. Increases gas prices, increases electricity prices, increases taxes and frees the Pakistani rupee completely. Today, the Pakistani rupee virtually collapsed, close to 270 rupees to $1. Prices are skyrocketing, higher than mountains, deeper than oceans. Friend, China has refused to roll over the repayment of a loan, of an installment of a loan. So Pakistan is to repay another $500 million, though its foreign exchange reserves have plummeted to less than $3.5 billion as on date. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We will get you the latest. Indus Water Treaty. India sent a notice to Pakistan on that. What does that mean? All that and much more. But first, as always, the headlines. Delhi University students protest as bid to screen the BBC film is blocked. Several detained. Showdown also in Madras and Jadavpur universities. Sensational revelations in the Praveen Nettaru murder charge sheet. Nettaru's murder was revenge killing. The radical Islamist organization Popular Front of India targeted Hindu activists. BRS MLC's abusive remark against Telangana governor questions delay in passing bills by the governor. Argument breaks out on stage between Karnataka's Seer and Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai. Seer alleges netas make hollow promises. Bommai hits back, says, once I promise, I ensure work is done. Rahul Gandhi cancels his Bharat Jodo Yatra walk after alleged security lapse today. Calls it collapse of police system. J&K police counter him. Say they were not consulted before stopping the yatra. It's likely to resume tomorrow. A British member of parliament has hit out at the BBC, describing a BBC documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi as disgraceful. British MP Rob Blackman described the BBC documentary as a hatchet job on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Member of Parliament insisted that the documentary was one-sided. It ignored or just mentioned in passing the targeting of Hindus in Godhra train burning and the efforts made by then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, in 2002 to contain the situation. Blackman was speaking at the House of Commons in Britain to mark 33 years of genocide of Hindus in Kashmir on the 25th of January. Blackman spoke of the persecution of Hindus in Kashmir. He insisted that action on Article 370, revocation of Article 370, was a step in the right direction. Let's listen in.
One issue I just want to touch on is the absolute disgraceful BBC propaganda programmes that have been on over the last 2 weeks. Now, last week we had what can only be described as a flagship job on Sri Narendra Modi when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. Now, they then showed several clips of Narendra Modi making speeches, going around trying to calm the situation down. He never ever encouraged the riots or tried to promote them. Far from it. He was trying to calm them down. Trying to get people, look, be calm. Let's take the heat out of this, literally. We'll get the perpetrators that committed this crime and they'll be punished.
So what the British Broadcasting Corporation did was a hatchet job, according to UK MP Bob Blackman. He slammed this documentary. He's called it one-sided. He's called it disgraceful. And our top story on India First is this crisis in Pakistan. The Pakistani rupee is in tailspin and it may go down even further. There is an acute shortage of dollars and the crunch is hitting not just industry and investment but also the common people on the streets in Pakistan. And it's been on for several months. It's only worsening as the country gets knocked around from one crisis to the other. The man in the hot seat is Pakistan's finance minister, who's thrown up his hands virtually in despair, saying Allah made Pakistan and perhaps Allah will see Pakistan through this crisis. Allah made Pakistan, Allah will save Pakistan. As Pakistan's economy tanks and the rupee nosedives, the man in the hot seat, Finance Minister Ishaq Dar, has invoked Allah to save Pakistan.
पूरी टीम दिन रात काम कर रही है। पाकिस्तान दुनिया में रहने के लिए अल्लाह ताला ने कायम किया है। ये एक वाहिद मुल्क है जो कलमा शरीफ के नाम पे बना था। इवन सऊदी अरेबिया कलमा शरीफ के नाम पे नहीं बना था। तो अगर अल्लाह ताला ने इसको क्रिएट किया तो इसकी हिफाजत, इसकी तरक्की, इसकी खुशहाली भी अल्लाह ताला के ज़िम्मे है।
Pakistani rupee nosedive to 262 Pakistani rupees to $1 as Islamabad lifted the exchange cap, complying with the International Monetary Fund demands. There was panic with the rupee in free fall.
जनरल को जो आदाद शुमार बताए जा रहे हैं उनके मुताबिक तो सब्जियां बहुत सस्ती हैं, फल बहुत सस्ता है, लेकिन एक आम आदमी से पूछा जो इन सब्जियों को खरीदने के लिए और फलों को खरीदने के लिए इन मार्केटों में आता है, उनको 50 रुपए और 100 रुपए फर्क के साथ ये सब्जियां बेची जा रही हैं।
Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, already in the line of opposition's fire for saying the country had a nuclear weapon in one hand and a begging bowl in the other, blamed his predecessor for the country's current situation. He warned of harsher measures ahead.
काश ये ML1 पिछले 4 साल की जो बेबुनियाद इल्ज़ाम तराशी का शिकार ना होता, इसी तरह जो दूसरे इदारे थे वो बेबुनियाद इल्ज़ाम तराशी का शिकार ना होते और यहीं तक बात रहती तो शायद मामला इतना ख़राब ना होता।
Pakistan is in tailspin. The country's foreign exchange reserves are down to under $4 billion. China turned down Pakistan's request to roll over a $500 million loan repayment. Dar's recent visit to Qatar also failed to yield any positive results so far. Shehbaz Sharif is in the line of fire in Pakistan for changing finance ministers midstream. There are over 8,500 cargo containers awaiting clearance at various ports in Pakistan that are not being cleared in the absence of a letter of credit for release of foreign exchange from the State Bank of Pakistan. There is also an acute shortage of flour, onion and other essential items. People are already complaining a massive hike in power and gas rates.
घर में जो है मासूम बच्चे जो है हर एक का तरस रहा है और भूख और इफलास से लोग मर रहे हैं।
कोई साथ नहीं दे रहा। आटा महंगा, चीनी महंगी, अंडे महंगे, क्या क्या चीज महंगी नहीं, क्या खाएगा अभी। अब गैस पे बढ़ा रहे, गैस की वहां से बंद कर देते हैं। जाओ सबसे मिले हुए बड़े बड़े ताजिर जो होते हैं ना, डाकू।
But the worst is yet to come. The Pakistani government is likely to hike power, gas and fuel prices and may also increase the tax net to comply with the IMF conditions. The crisis is only set to escalate. Bureau Report, India Today. So there's an economic crisis, there's also a huge political crisis, and former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, he says he fears for his life. He's saying that there is a plot to assassinate him. He's called it Plan C of the Shahbaz Sharif government to be executed through Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's father, Asif Ali Zardari. Listen in.
प्लान सी बना है, आसिफ जरदारी इसके पीछे है, करप्शन का पैसा इसके पास बेतहाशा है। सिंध हुकूमत से ये बकायदा सिंध हुकूमत से जो पैसा लूटता है वो या इलेक्शन के ऊपर लगा देता है या सेनेट के इलेक्शन में एमपीज को खरीदने पे लगा देता है। जो भी इलेक्शन आजाद कश्मीर का गिलगित बल्तिस्तान बेतहाशा पैसा फेंकता है क्योंकि चोरी का पैसा है। ये पैसा इसने लगाया है एक दहशतगर्द तंजीम को, इसने पैसा दिया है। सहूलतकार इसमें ताकतवर एजेंसी के लोग हैं जो ये मिलके तीन तरफ ये फैसला हुआ है और इन्होंने अगली वारदात करनी है। मैं आज अपनी कौम को बता रहा हूं और मैं इसलिए बता रहा हूं कि मैं जो नाम मैंने दिए हैं वही नाम वो भी आएंगे और आसिफ जरदारी के अलावा। तो मैं इसलिए ये कर रहा हूं कि जिंदगी मौत तो अल्लाह के हाथ में है। मैंने तो निकलना है, जैसे मैं ठीक होऊंगा मैंने तो अब इलेक्शन कैंपेन पे निकल जाऊंगा, नहीं तो वैसे कैंपेन पे निकलूंगा। लेकिन मैं तो बंद में नहीं होऊंगा, लेकिन मुझे कुछ हुआ तो सारी कौम को पता होना चाहिए कि कौन लोग थे जिन्होंने ये करवाया।
Now, it's being seen as perhaps more trouble for Pakistan because India has also hit out at Pakistan on the flaws from the Pakistani side on the implementation of the Indus Water Treaty. India has issued a notice to Pakistan for modification of the Indus Water Treaty since 1960. That's when the treaty was signed. Now, sources have told India Today, despite repeated efforts by India to find a mutually agreeable way forward, Pakistan refused to discuss the issue, and for several years, there have been 5 meetings of the Permanent Commission of the Indus Water between 2017 and 22. No solution was found. In 2015, Pakistan requested for the appointment of a neutral expert to examine its technical objections to the Kishanganga hydroelectric project. That was 2015. In 2016, Pakistan unilaterally retracted this request and proposed that an international court of arbitration be formed to adjudicate this Pakistan's objections. The initiation of 2 simultaneous processes on the same question is not possible. India said it will create an unprecedented issue. It will be a legally untenable situation which will risk endangering the entire Indus Water Treaty. That is why sources are telling India Today a notice has now been issued to Pakistan to provide Pakistan an opportunity to enter into an intergovernmental negotiation with India in the next 90 days to sort out this issue and rectify a material breach in the Indus Water Treaty. So let's now come to what Pakistan's finance minister said. Is Pakistan now completely Allah bharose? Is this an admission of failure or a desperate attempt to get more funds from donor countries? Joining me on India First is Arzu Kazmi, a journalist and analyst from Pakistan, and of course Sushant Sareen, senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, who keeps a hawk eye on all developments in Pakistan. Arzu, is Pakistan actually Allah bharose now? What do you make of the finance minister's statement?
I think they are badly failure of their government. As you see, they cannot control anything, even the economy or foreign policy, whatever you say. Not only this government, even before this, Imran Khan's government was also a big failure. Everybody knows that. So now they have to say कि जी अल्लाह भरोसे हैं और कुछ नहीं हो सकता. This is clearly they are saying they are not doing anything and they cannot capable to do anything for Pakistan. Because if they want to go to IMF की सारी शर्तें इन्होंने मान ली. As they said They have accepted each and everything which IMF
Okay.
asked them to do. So now the only thing is that they can, you can say, they can delay the default to make the country as a default. They are not announcing for next 6 months also. They can have some management and they can manage few things here with the help of IMF, and because the friendly countries to whom they ask for money, they also ask them to go to IMF.
Okay.
And if IMF give them money, then only Saudi Arabia and other Islamic countries also, they will also provide them fund.
Let me bring in
refused to
Sushant
give them
Sareen.
1.1 billion.
Okay,
Yes.
Sushant Sareen, if Pakistan was actually in tailspin, would a serious first step not be to cut money for the Pakistan Army and ISI? There have been some reports, but are those reports credible, or are the real owners from Pakistan insulated from this crisis?
Gaurav, that possibility will have to come and will come because of the kind of economic situation Pakistan is in. At this stage, no matter what they do, I think they are looking at things getting even worse than what they are. Not just if they manage to get, for example, the IMF loan and whatever aid, the Pakistanis are behaving as though the world will come to an end after 6 months. On 30th of June, when their financial year finishes, if they've avoided default, then default is warded off. But they have a huge backlog of debt.
Yes.
So much so that their entire federal government revenue now is going into debt servicing, entire of it, right?
Yes.
So everything is being spent from borrowed funds. Now, when you go into the next fiscal year, things will have become worse. You have already taken whatever monies you could from the IMF. The IMF program will not be there. And your friends are, I think, up to their neck giving you money. Now, the biggest problem to my mind is, and I think Ishaq Dar for once was being honest when he said that it's now all up to Allah, because purely from an economic perspective, they have run out of ideas. They have absolutely no ideas on how to fix the economy. Even the steps which they're talking about to ward off imminent default is only going to postpone default,
Yes.
not ward off that possibility.
No, but is there an intent, is there a desire to take steps, Arzu? Yeah, ichha hi nahi hai, money nahi hai, because there are very harsh steps that need to be taken. We are told that gas prices have gone up, electricity prices have already gone up, and IMF wants Pakistan to do even more. What is likely to happen? And tell us, Arzu, in the past some months, you as a Pakistani or people in Pakistan, how much more are you already paying for electricity, for gas, for fuel, and how much more have you been asked to pay?
Listen, first of all, I think if they want to survive, if they want to survive Pakistan as a country, I think they have to take back all the money, correction money from the army, from agencies, from the politicians, from every party, even People's Party, Zardari Saab, Imran Khan, and PMLN, Nawaz Sharif, and everybody, they should return all the money which they already made for themselves by
Lekin
corruption.
Arzu, ye kaise hoga? Is this even possible? This is not possible. I mean, will Parvez Musharraf return the money? Will General Bajwa return the money? Will he return his houses in Dubai? Will General Kayani return his houses in Australia? Ye sab to nahi possible hai.
I know this is not possible, but at least people should know what's going on there, because they already, I think a few days back, they already ordered a few more luxury cars. Why? From where they
1,200
got
luxury
that
cars,
money?
apparently. Yes.
So I think there is somebody, I think America or some superpower or China or someone come forward and ask them to control all these things in their country. Only this is the only solution which I think they can have. Otherwise, people cannot survive here. The common people like me who are from the working class, we are already paying like electricity bill for a 3-bedroom apartment for 35,000 rupees per month. How can we survive like this? So at least they can listen to America, Saudi, China and all these countries So everybody knows their corruption cases. Everybody knows what is the reality of Pakistan and their establishment and their politicians.
No, but
so,
is that even possible,
they can
Sushant
best them.
Sareen? Sushant Sareen, you know, I can understand the angst and pain of the common person in Pakistan when they say, let our politicians return money, let the army return the money. That's clearly not possible, and especially not the army. So is there, you know, when IMF says do more, Pakistan didn't do more when the world said do more on terror. They didn't do it. Will they do more on economy? Or is Pakistan actually now going to become a bankrupt country?
Gaurav, I think they are bankrupt. But what we have just heard from Arzu is not a plan. It's only anger.
It's anger.
You know, it's the anger of the common man that, okay, fine, these people have looted so much that they should return. Not that that's going to solve their economic problems. Because the economic problems are only partly related to the loot which has been done. It's a very deep systemic and structural problem. Like one of their finance ministers said, he said that, you know, the Arabs who produce oil and sell it to their people at a much higher price than what we are selling oil to our people. Now, these people have been living in denial, Gaurav. That is the fundamental problem. They have been living in denial, and they have been thinking that they are too dangerous and they will not be allowed to fail. They are too big, they will not be allowed to fail. Somebody or the other will come and save them. Like this guy is saying, Ashaq Dar, he's such a clown, but he is saying now that Allah will save us. So there has been this thing that we are too dangerous. Now, what they did was,
but isn't that a reality, Sushant Sareen? Before I bring in Arzu once again, isn't that a reality? You know, like Shahbaz Sharif said, it's a nuclear weapon country, nuclear bomb in one hand, begging bowl in the other. They could sell bombs, the dirty bomb, and make money.
No, but that's not going to happen because the world is not going to sit by and let them do that. So the problem is, so first they thought somebody will come. They thought they can negotiate their way out. They can play this game of brinkmanship. That didn't work. Then they thought, okay, fine. You know, the floods have come. Let us leverage the floods. They've done damn all for the people who've suffered from the floods. But they thought this will become our cash cow. That didn't happen. Then they thought, okay, fine. Let us go to the Americans and lobby with the Americans to put pressure. That didn't happen. Then they thought, okay, fine. We'll go to the Arabs. We'll go to the Chinese. That didn't happen because everybody is saying that you guys need to start paying your own bills.
Yeah.
And that is what they are not ready to do. So now it is being forced down their throat. And the only solution, Gaurav, if I might be allowed 10 seconds, is that this state, the way it is structured, the way it is constituted, is unviable and unsustainable. This state has to be restructured. It has to be restructured. It has to be contained. It has to actually contract, you know, in terms of its economy, in terms of the size of government, for it to become affordable. People have to start paying taxes, which they're not used to paying.
Yes.
So living off other people's money, that era has come to an end.
Very interesting you say that. And Arzu, in midst of all this, any reaction from Pakistan on the message from India on the Indus Water Treaty?
No, I think they are not want to respond to India for any reason because currently they are too busy with their economy and economic crisis. So we are no. I don't think any of the minister is interested to talk to India currently.
Okay. Last 30 seconds. No, they may not be interested, but it's a reality that's staring at Pakistan in its face. Sushant, India's finally bitten the bullet on the Indus Water Treaty, at least in words, if not in deed, just as yet.
No, you have to do it in words before you start doing it in actual fact. So I think the words have started and the deeds will follow. But as is the want of the Pakistanis, they are again in denial. They think that this treaty is something that India cannot walk out of. Just the way they've handled their economy, they're going to handle this treaty. And one fine day, they will find out that India has said that we are no longer a party to this treaty, regardless of what the World Bank says, regardless of what anybody says, until and unless the Pakistanis stop their perniciousness on this particular treaty, their obstructionism on the Indian projects. Unless they stop that, I think this treaty is going to be history in the next couple of years.
In the next couple of years, and Arzu, it's like the pain will not end for Pakistan, from your economy to your political crisis. Last 10 seconds, Arzu, what do you make of Imran Khan saying there's an assassination plot and Zardari is trying to kill him?
I don't think that Imran Khan is very serious about this statement because as he wants to be in the media, so he makes these kind of statement. But one thing more, Gaurav, I want to tell you about the economy is that one of my friend told me just today that international companies have to stop accepting credit card from Pakistan because they don't believe that we will pay it afterwards or whenever it's due. So he tried to purchase something from the international company and they reject his credit card from Pakistan.
Okay.
This is the condition here.
Okay, Arzu, stay strong for joining me here on India First. Arzu Kazmi from Pakistan and Sushant Sareen, as always, many thanks for joining me. We'll, of course, be tracking the story very closely because you must know what's happening on the other side of the hill. Up next, Siddharth Sarabi brings us Business Today.
How you make money and how you beat the market. Three very experienced practitioners of all that with me. I don't need to introduce them. Ramdev, Shankar and Nikhil, all of them you know very well. Nikhil's the youngest, but he's been remarkably successful with Zerodha over the last few years. So my hats off to him for what he and his brother have achieved over the last few years.
I'll tell you one simple golden formula to beat the market as an active fund manager, okay? And that is if you get the bear market right. Because your biggest alpha will come when the market falls 40 and you're falling only 20 or 10. In a bull market, you will not be able to beat the index. Impossible. And therefore, if you have the skills to get a bear market right, and you fall half the market, you fall 25% of the market, you have put 20% point in the bag, and then you will gradually fritter it away over a 3-4 year period to still end up ahead in the game. And which is why it's an underappreciated skill to get the bear market right. Okay? And bull market, ultimately bull market, most people will have similar stocks. It's very hard to be away from, the consensus trade. So therefore, the skill where you can add value as an active manager is to get the bear market right. And occasionally, if you get that right, and I think every 3-4 years you will get a down year, just make sure you get that part right.
When is the next bear market according to you, Shankar?
I don't think it's happening anytime soon, which is a problem for active managers. Okay, it happened, 2 years back, in COVID. Now, if you were alert enough, you could have seen that. I mean, it was not difficult to spot that there was some degree of fall coming, not a bear market, maybe not a huge bear market, but I think from February 2020, there was enough data and the screen was telling you from Japan up until Italy, schools are closing down and everything. I mean, that was not like a SARS virus. It was very clear this was a catastrophe, a calamity, and they would have some impact. So if you positioned yourself through some hedges or if you could shorten your structure, I think you would have made significant alpha right there. In a month, you could have been up 20% relative to the market if you were smart enough to do that.
लेकिन इस हवा को कैसे रोकोगे?
For the unversed, set in 1980s Gujarat, Rise revolved around a bootlegger whose business is spotted by a tough policeman.
आप मेरा ट्रांसफर कहीं भी कर सकते हैं। रईस को नहीं छोड़ूंगा मैं। एक दिन नाक में नकेल डाल के खींच के लेके जाऊंगा तुझे मैं यहाँ से।
सबूत ले आइए। ले जाइए।
It also featured Nawazuddin Siddiqui and marked Pakistani actress Mahira Khan's Bollywood debut.
आ रहा हूँ। मेरे डैड हर संडे मुझे यहाँ लाया करते थे समुद्र से कबड्डी खेलने।
समुद्र से कबड्डी।
In 2016, Shah Rukh Khan was seen as a psychologist, Dr. Jahangir Khan, in coming-of-age drama titled Dear Zindagi. The film, directed by Gauri Shinde, also featured Alia Bhatt, who essayed the role of a dual role in a film was not something that SRK had never done before. But with Fan, he gave it a twist. In the movie, he essayed a film star Imran Khan and an obsessive fan Gaurav Chandna, who looks just like him. Before his last 5 films, SRK featured in 2015's and 2014's multi-starrer Dilwale and Happy New Year.
छुट्टी मनाने निकला था तुमने मेरी छुट्टी कर दी
He was also seen in Rohit Shetty's Chennai Express opposite Deepika Padukone and in memorable films such as Jab Tak Hai Jaan, Dawn 2 and Ravan, which was ahead of its time in terms of its VFX. Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Sarabi and you are watching our pre-budget coverage, and joining me today is a stellar panel of Indian industry from the CII, Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, President of the Confederation and the CMD of Bajaj Finserv Limited. Also joining us is Sanjeev Puri, Vice President of CII and the CMD of ITC Limited. Mr. R. Dinesh, the President Designate at CII and the Executive Vice Chairman of TVS Supply Chain Solutions also joins us, and Chandrajit Banerjee, the Director General at CII. Welcome to the show. Mr. Bajaj, I want to begin by asking you to specify what kind of policy prescription would you ideally want to see in this budget to deal with the global headwinds and uncertainty on the economic front that has emanated. India continues to remain a bright spot in terms of growth globally, but there do seem to be some concerns, Mr. Bajaj.
Thanks, Siddharth. I'll focus on 4 key areas, but let me say first that we hope, like in past years, that this budget is going to be pro-business, pro the economy, and continue to proceed like it has done in previous years. The 4 areas I'd like to focus on: one is importance for fiscal management, and within that fiscal consolidation. So we suggest that the budget should adhere to the fiscal deficit target of 6.4% of GDP in this fiscal, taking it down to 6% in the next fiscal, and eventually to 4.5% in FY26. This is important because we are still very much in an uncertain global environment, and hence ensuring that our resilience, our macroeconomic stability as a country remains is going to be very important. The second area that I'd like to focus on is a investment-led growth strategy, and the government has been doing a stellar job in this with their capital expenditure spends. We hope that, like last year, we see an increase in allocation to capital expenditure by 35%, taking it to 10 lakh crore. This has significant benefits. Not only does it keep the economy going, it creates new jobs, it creates consumption as a result. And hence my third point is to boosting consumption demand. We have seen that through the pandemic and the impact of high inflation, that the lowest strata of society has got hit the worst. And we can see their consumption has fallen. So we suggest that personal income taxes should be rationalized for these sections of society so that we put some more money back into their pocket, give them greater stability, and get them back into consumption as well. And lastly, combination of these areas, we need to focus on generating more jobs. Our country has a tremendous opportunity to become the manufacturing and service hub for the world over the next decade, and additional jobs created will help us grow as a country, will help us grow in our own consumption, and will continue the wheels rolling of our economy.
Right. Those are good points there, and we'll take them up. Now, Mr. Puri, I want to come to you, and as someone who understands India's consumption and the markets, both Bharat and India, so to say, how do you think consumption demand can be supported by the union government's budget? There are some areas of concern that have emerged, like Mr. Bajaj was pointing out.
Thank you, Siddharth. So I think fundamentally the central idea is really around, as Sanjeev alluded to, around an investment-led growth, and it's around making the various sectors of the economy more competitive, whilst immediately also creating jobs, which in turn will create consumption and further provide impetus to capacity utilization. I think that's the whole central principle. I think the specific areas that I would like to call out is that manufacturing is an important area, and policy interventions have been focusing on it through the PLI schemes, through also reduced corporate income tax. I think the banks are in better position to provide credit. So the overall situation is good. Indian economy is on a sweet spot, as you said. There are global headwinds, but capacity utilization is picking up. So there is an opportunity, I think, to provide similar kind of schemes to employment-intensive sectors, be it toys, apparel, or footwear for that matter. And there's been some talk about it. So these are, I think, that's another opportunity. And I think in the context of the China Plus One, this also assumes importance, because some of these models for sourcing, these are an outsourcing mode. And therefore, I suspect that, switching can be faster if we can provide the capacity for these to be sourced. So
Right.
this would be an important area. Second, I think also the corporate income tax that was reduced for new manufacturing industries, I think some extension of that period would be useful, because part of the period has been lost during the COVID period, where the opportunity could not be fully leveraged. Now that capacities are now inching towards the place where reinvestments will happen, I think this is an opportune time to do that. There is also opportunity to boost employment in the tourism sector. India has a lot to offer in tourism.
Right.
We have very strong multiple assets, and we have the manpower, the skilled manpower, the demographic to support it and give a nice experience to visitors. So that's an area that can be boosted, and the government is also showcasing a lot of what India has to offer through G20. I think we can build on this, provide some more support to the industry, and also promote the specific destinations that we can create as centers of excellence for tourism in the country.
Right.
The third is that I think the investments on infrastructure specifically should be targeting rural areas, particularly the last mile connectivity, so that it empowers the rural community. I think the social infrastructure and the physical infrastructure like electricity and other facets, water, that have been progressively being scaled up. I think government has done a commendable business there. I think all these are in any way helping to empower rural communities. This will help build that up. And of course, agriculture is a big area of opportunity. It's a sector that employs nearly half our workforce.
Right.
There are a lot of purposeful interventions made in prior budgets, FPOs, agri-infrastructure funds, the focus on bringing the benefits of modern technology to agriculture. I think that journey must continue, and methods to accelerate that would be very welcome. For example, CIA has suggested a cluster-based approach, which is around a certain crop with targeted customer segments and markets, and create an entire ecosystem with R&D institutions aligned to it. And of course, for India to become competitive, what is also required is reliability.
Right.
And one facet of reliability, to my mind, in today's time is also resilience and adaptation, because extreme weather events do destabilize supply chains, do create adverse conditions for agriculture. Agriculture is the most vulnerable. I think a lot more focus on adaptation I think will all help build competitiveness and therefore help grow the economy, help grow jobs and therefore consumption.
Right. Mr. Dinesh, the point about supply chains, and that has impacted India in the last couple of years, particularly during COVID time. And this is both an opportunity and a challenge. What would you specifically feel needs to be done when it comes to supply chains in India? Can the budget at all intervene and try and fix some of the hurdles or difficulties that are faced?
Thank you, Siddharth. And very good question. And I think if you really look at it, the previous budget set the tone for that, if I can say so, because the first phase of it was the Gati Shakti program. So if you really want to make supply chains, I would call it best in class, you will need to make sure that we have the necessary infrastructure to make that happen. And I think, as was pointed out in the last budget, making sure that 6 arms of the government came together in that one unified digital portal, which was the Gati Shakti, I think was announced in the budget. And I think we see the implementation of that happening at the ground level, which I think will definitely help from an India context of the supply chain side. But I think the next step of it, which I think again has been announced separately, which is the national logistics policy, and also linking this with the capex spend which is going to take place, I think will be something which will really make a difference for us, not just in this budget, going forward. So what would I think from a CII side we would love to see is how is both of these going to come together? Can we bring the digital solutions to make this happen? And like has happened in various other sectors, can the supply chain also benefit from the kind of innovative solutions which the Indian government and the companies involved can work together with? From a budget side, I think continuing the capex on the Gati Shakti program and making sure that necessary support is provided for the better outsourcing to supply chain companies so that we don't have the kind of problems which other countries have faced with regard to utilization of this infrastructure is what I think I would definitely love to see.
Right. Mr. Banerjee, I'm coming to you. And, from a corporate taxation point of view, we heard a suggestion from Mr. Puri. But I want to come to the personal income tax part. This is the last full budget prior to next year's general election. And obviously, there is a sense of expectation building up on that front. On the other hand, we also hear from a market point of view that the government may choose to at least rationalize in terms of the explanation, the treatment of capital gains, if not actually specifically do something this time around. How important are direct tax changes on the overall macroeconomic front through this budget?
So, I mean, I'll break up in 2 parts as you have asked the question. First, what we have asked as far as the personal income tax goes is basically we have talked about at the lower end of the income tax slabs, if to boost the consumption demand and to meet with the inflationary trends which is pursued in the recent past, if there could be some amount of, because we have not had a personal income tax change for some time at the lower levels. So if that can be worked upon, that would really help ease both these issues that are faced by people in terms of both inflation as well as also helping us with the consumption demand. And that has a strong trigger of effect. But I would also like to say that, consequent to the reduction of the corporate tax rates that we have had, the differential between the personal and the corporate tax has actually sort of widened, and the highest marginal rate of individuals has, if you can see, has now gone up to somewhere around 42 plus 42.7%, which is the highest slab against the normal corporate tax, which is, as you know, 25% or 25.1% or so. So this has become further sort of, complicated with the budget of, if you look at 2020, which will introduce a new tax regime of income tax for individuals that coexist with the older one. So the brunt of global inflation, so to say, is falling on taxpayers in the lower and the middle level income group and constricting the consumption expenditure. So that's the rationale. And to boost private consumption expenditure, a reduction in the tax rate for the individuals with total income, say to about 20 lakhs or even a little more than that, that could be considered to relieve to bring relief to the middle class taxpayers and increase the disposable income. Now, your second part of your question was relating to the capital gains tax. At present, what we have, there is no consistency, if you really see, in the capital gains tax or holding period for different types of instruments falling within the same asset class, and even the indexation benefits are quite different. That differs in different situations. So the tax rates also differ for residents as well as for the non-residents. So what we have been suggesting is to bring out a framework for greater simplicity. It's basically more looking at simplicity, more of consistency and rationalization of the capital gains tax regime.
On that note, we'll slip into a short break. Do stay with us.
College campuses in India are on the boil over the controversial BBC documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Day after a showdown at the capital's JNU and Jamia Millia Islamia University, the University of Hyderabad turned into a battleground over the film's screening. A scuffle broke out between the left affiliate SFI and ABVP as the left-wing students group had organized a screening of the BBC documentary. As counter, ABVP arranged for the Kashmir files to be screened. Things came to a head after projectors set up to screen the Kashmir files were taken away by Hyderabad University's security officials. From north to south to the east, at Bengal's Jadavpur University, around 400 to 500 students watched the film.
यहाँ पे अभी 400 से 500 लोग मौजूद हैं, आप देख सकते हैं हमारे पीछे, और मतलब कैंपस के सभी वर्ग के लोग यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं, और इसलिए मौजूद हैं कि उन्हें लगता है कि जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री जो है कोर्ट के द्वारा और सरकार के द्वारा बैन नहीं है, उस डॉक्यूमेंट्री को देखने से उन्हें अगर कोई रोक रहा है तो वह हमारे लोकतंत्र का जो ढांचा है उसे कमज़ोर करने की कोशिश कर रहा है.
Meanwhile, politics continues to rage on over the documentary film. Despite a ban on the film, leaders of the Kerala Congress organized a public screening at the Shangumugam beach in Thiruvananthapuram. The storm over the BBC Modi documentary simmers for now. With Ritvik Mondol, Abdul Bashir and Shivi Mol KG, Bureau Report, India Today.
Welcome back. You're watching our pre-budget discussion with senior members of Indian industry. Mr. Bajaj, I'm coming to you, and we had occasion to speak earlier as well. You were at Davos listening to what's happening and interacting with global industry people. How significant is the need to control inflation from the fiscal and administrative side? Because monetary side, perhaps what needed to be done has been done, and we'll see the consequences coming out over the next few months. How much of a burden should the government continue to bear? For example, it's been doing that on petrol and diesel prices. What else would you advocate?
So, Siddharth, at this point of time, given that we are still in a world plagued with all kinds of uncertainty, we believe that managing inflation is an important role both for the central bank and for the government. And there are various steps. I think from the government's point of view, one additional area to look into would be on subsidies, and any non-merit-based subsidies should be gradually brought down so that wherever the government is spending that additional money is all going towards productive investments, which will give even greater growth going forward. I believe that there is an opportunity a few quarters down the line with China opening up, growth coming back from China, that and you talked about Davos, that the world is talking about now, Europe, if at all, seeing a mild recession, not as strong as earlier. So while it's still early days, let's hope that that is true. And hence, then the window for future growth is actually a short window that needs to be taken care of. A country like India has tremendous promise now to becoming the manufacturing and service hub for the world. And this will be for the next decade and more. For that to happen, we have to ensure that there is stability on the rupee, there is stability on interest rates and inflation. Domestic consumption for us is a very important lever, and our current K-shaped recovery can become just an upward curve recovery if inflation is controlled. So these are all the many reasons why it's important to make sure that inflation, as it seems to be, continues to stay within a range that the central bank is comfortable with.
Mr. Puri, would you advocate the need to increase what is given in terms of the social welfare schemes, for example, on the job front, the rural employment front? We also have a food grain scheme that has been continued and extended. What kind of impact would it have on supporting consumption?
See, I believe that, investments in social infrastructure, whether it's education or health, these are areas that must be enhanced. The journey of providing the basic facilities to rural, where commendable progress has been made, I think that should continue, because that is something that is going to empower the community.